One in five suffer.
Erase the stigma.
Brain difference is not a crime.
Mental health isn't just your problem.
It's our problem.
And now, Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave.
Welcome to Mental Health Mondays. Wow, we're excited to be live.
That's right.
Dave and I took a much needed sabbatical break just to regroup.
Regroup.
We regrouped ourselves.
And we regrouped. We were putting on lots of sunscreen / goop when we were on vacation.
But anyway, so as we all know, I'm Marla every week, and he's Dave, and we're actually Mental Health Mondays makes us very excited to be able to come and share stories, information, and everything pertaining to mental wellness, brain differences, and just life that will help us maintain better mental awareness, and to always make sure you guys know you're not alone.
We always want to remind you guys that Mental Health Mondays is a joint venture between Loving Beyond Reason and NAMI San Fernando Valley. You can donate, and we need you to donate to Mental Health Mondays by going to either one of those websites, lovingbeyondreason.org or NAMI San Fernando Valley. .org, and click on the Mental Health Mondays, and you can find a donate tab there as well. We need you. Our guest today is Regina Queen. She is currently a co-teacher for NAMI San Fernando Valley's Family to Family class. She is also a presenter for NAMI San Fernando Valley to the Los Angeles Police Department, where she educates to the department on mental illness. Like most of us in the struggle, she has a loved one who suffers with mental illness. We want to remind you that our goal in bringing you the stories and experiences of NAMI experts is to show the unity in our community and a collaboration for a common cause, and that's mental health. When we come back, our guest will be Regina Queen.
Help someone who is struggling by supporting the National Alliance on Mental Illness and be a part of the NAMI effect. Hope starts with you.
Hey guys, listen up. Learn something.
Regina Queen, welcome to Mental Health Mondays.
By all means, we welcome you.
Oh, I'm so delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I have to tell you, it's kind of a little play on words and a mind trick. I want to so closely you rival your name with Regina King. And I'm like, Regina, no, she's the queen. I get it.
She's a friend of ours as well, yes.
Yes.
So, Regina, we want to let you know, start off by saying that one of the major breakthroughs for dealing with our own son's crisis was actually taking the Family to Family class. And that sort of opened, we were familiar with dealing with mental health, but to actually sort of also learn how to better empathize with him by seeing things from his perspective made us dealing with his situation a little bit easier for us. And so, we understand that you have a loved one as well. You're a teacher for Family to Family that's dealing with mental health issues. We'll just let you take it away and tell us a little bit about your story and how things were before you realized that you were dealing with a mental health crisis.
Wow. Let's see. We'll go back to maybe 2005. That's when everything started with my loved one. He was an adolescent at that time.
About what age?
I would say 12, which is quite young.
Yeah.
For that type of the bipolar 1 diagnosis. But, I just assumed since he's male gender that just he was going through, his adolescent phase,
right,
where he's being rebellious and not wanting to go to school and not wanting to wash his dishes, make up the bed and all that. But it became much worse than the normal rebellion in that I noticed that there were times when he wasn't sleeping for days at a time.
Even back then?
Right.
Wow.
Right. Which I thought was odd, but again, I'm like, oh, he's a teenager, kind of dismissed it.
Right.
And then there were other times when he would sleep for days at a time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was back and forth. And at the time, I'm like, oh my goodness, you're just being lazy, right? That's
Wow.
as African American
Right,
people,
yeah.
we're always trained, work,
Right.
be diligent, do everything.
Seize your opportunity. You don't have to. You got to be bigger, and you have to do more than right.
Exactly. So, needless to say, I was quite frustrated, and I'll be completely honest, angry, and infuriated if I was,
Truthful, right? Yeah, which you are.
right. So I started looking for therapy because I'm not one of those Black people that doesn't believe in therapy. And I can tell you, we've been to probably, and this is no exaggeration, at least 40 different places. 40,
Wow.
not 40.
Wow. Now that's looking for talk therapy or other
Help.
therapies as well,
Whatever
or just
was
help
suggested.
in general?
Talk therapy, church therapy, camps, you name it. We've been to the Almond Clinic. We've been to,
I have to ask. So, just no relief, and all of those just wasn't right for him.
Well, I'll be completely transparent again. I didn't want to believe that it was a mental illness, right? I didn't know that much about it, and my training has been Black people don't have mental illness, which is a lie. So I'll echo that. That's a lie.
Right.
That's something that white people do. Black people, we just, slap them upside the head a few times and they'll
Get your ish together.
Exactly.
Right.
But that didn't work. And after, let's see, maybe 14 hospitalizations.
Wow.
I had to, the 5150 where they're taken against their will
Right.
and all of that.
Now
72 hours.
those 14 hospitalizations came between the ages of 12 and what?
12 and maybe 22.
And all along the way, people were trying to give you just a gentle reminder that you're dealing with a mental health crisis, and you were still having a hard time really accepting that fully.
Yeah, because I'm a Christian, and usually we think, oh, those
Pray
are
it
just
away. Those are
pray
demons.
it away. Those are demonic spirits, blah, blah, blah. And then nobody in the church could really help me. It was just like, oh, we have to pray, he needs a mentor. So we got Big Brother program, different people in the church tried to step in, but nobody really knew what to do. And finally, we had some situations where the police were involved because of truancy in school and just behavior that was unacceptable at school, being belligerent and not doing homework, showing up to school in the pajamas or not going to school at all, right? And I was working, so I wasn't available to manage all of that. So finally, I had to have a come to Jesus moment, and one of the social workers said, maybe you should try NAMI. NAMI is an organization that can help family members of people that have these diagnoses. So I still call it a diagnosis. I don't want to label.
Exactly. No, it's not
No,
who
we
your
understand.
loved one is. It is something that they deal
Right.
with.
I always call a diagnosis as a handlebar. It's just it's something that gives you the opportunity to actually be able to steer and to be able to help an issue.
Right.
You got to know what it is.
Yeah. And that was the best decision ever. And NAMI, I'll say, saved my life. NAMI saved my life because I was able to be in a room of other people that understood what we were going through and had compassion, because that's the main thing. If you tell someone that your family member has cancer, everybody's rallying around
Sure.
you. But anytime there's any type of brain disorder, people shun you. People are like, "Oh, that's too bad," and then they don't want to talk to you.
Well, not only is the person dealing with the struggle stigmatized, but the family becomes stigmatized.
And when we come back from this next break, I will share with you the tagline that I made up for NAMI when they saved our lives. So we'll be right back after this break.
Our
Stay
guest is
tuned.
Regina Queen. Don't move.
When Dave and Marla get together, You may not realize it, but these words, often used to describe someone with a mental health condition, can be very harmful. In a country where 1 in 5 people are affected by a mental health condition, it's time for all of us to step up and change the conversation. Just because someone's struggle isn't obvious on the outside doesn't mean they aren't hurting on the inside. We need to see the person, not the condition. Join with me, pledge to be stigma-free.
It's time for the Mental Health Minute with Marla and Dave. It's time for the Mental Health Minute.
Mental health problems and substance abuse disorders sometimes occur together. We call that dual diagnosis. According to mentalhealth.gov, this is because certain illegal drugs can cause people with an addiction to experience one or more symptoms of a mental health problem. Mental health problems can sometimes lead to alcohol or drug use, as some people with mental health problems may misuse these substances as a form of self-medication. Also, mental and substance use disorders share some underlying causes, including changes in brain composition, genetic vulnerabilities, and early exposure to stress and or trauma.
More than 1 in 4 adults living with serious mental health problems also have a substance use problem. Substance use problems occur more frequently with certain mental problems, including, well, there we go. Dave?
Depression, anxiety disorders, and schizophrenia and or personality disorders. If you or anyone you know is dealing with a dual diagnosis of a substance use disorder and another mental health condition, please, and we reiterate, please seek professional help.
This message is brought to you by Mental Health Mondays.
David is a thinker.
I never do anything without thinking about it first.
Marla is a feeler.
I basically wear my personality on my sleeve.
But when Marla and Dave get together, it's like a match dancing with a firecracker.
So, Regina, I mentioned that when we came back, I was going to give you the tag that I gave NAMI when we were in the, really honestly, the identical same situation. Our story is very public with our son. And we went to family. I literally said NAMI is the first and the last breath of mental health. And when I say that, I was at my last, like I didn't even know how, I don't know how I was even going to stand up. And we'd been through so much, and we were the last, that was my last breath. And they breathed the first breath back in with their support and their information and things that really made it possible for me to even truly understand, be able to responsibly communicate and be effective. And we're no different than you, including having mental health professionals in our immediate family that told us he needs to identify more with Christ, or, we got advice that I finally had to say, okay, what can we do to help? I said nothing if you're not willing to educate yourself, because you're giving advice that we know you love us, and it's based on where you're coming from, but it's not addressing the actual reality, the facts of what he's actually dealing with. So it's ineffective and it's frustrating to me. So therefore, just don't. Let me just be in this getting real answers to solve a real problem, and you keep praying, because I do think prayer works. But at the same time, unless Jesus was in the medication that he stopped taking, then now things are totally upside down. That's our experience. And I literally said that. I'm like, well, wait, this was a manageable situation while he was on meds. So when he went off of his meds and, became psychotic, what was that? So there you go.
In addition to, a lot of people have a hard time understanding, especially in the African American community, and this is one of the reasons why our foundation is called Loving Beyond Reason, is because a young man, once he gets his grown man body, you really can't force them to do anything. You have to rely on their cooperation, and I can only imagine for a lot of times while Marla and I are married, but I would be out of town, and she was existing almost as a single mother in that scenario. So that can be very difficult, and a lot of people don't understand that, especially when, and you can speak to this as well as one who educates the Los Angeles Police Department, when police officers don't naturally have that empathy for certain situations that we would need. And we've seen it all too well in the recent past of our African American young and men of color being dealt with harshly by law enforcement.
Well, I'm so glad that you bring that up because I do the trainings for LAPD for that reason specifically. I will say, first of all, that fortunately, and I give all praise to the Most High, I haven't had that negative experience with law enforcement, which, is a blessing. I do know that it exists. Clearly it exists. But I would say 99% of the time they've been caring, they've been helpful. They've, helped me get my family member to the hospital on occasions. I am very persistent, probably more persistent than most, because I called the watch commander. I was like, look, we have an emergency here in this, 24-hour helpline that's available. It takes them 48 hours to get here. Fortunately, that's changed now. But, I was just going out of my mind. And so they have been very supportive and helpful. And now that I do the trainings with them, I do breathing exercises with them, because I have compassion for the police officers.
Right.
Many of them, as quiet as it's kept, many of them have mental health issues.
Let me tell you, Regina, as to confirm what you're saying, and we too have been blessed. And we'll talk about, one of the things that I'm, working on bringing into the community is de-escalation training to families.
Yes.
And one of the things is your information, what you've learned and how to deal is also something that is super helpful. But absolutely, and I have stood there in the last crisis we had with our son, and the police pulled me to the side and were telling me about they were asking questions because their own family members are affected.
Right.
And wondering, hey, wait, how, down low, and they would start talking to me about their own family. So we're all human, and your uniform doesn't separate you and immune you to mental health. Your skin color does not, your status in life, your bank account, none of that is
1 in 5
is a divider, and it's 1 in 3 in the African American community.
True.
So we're less than 1% willing to get a diagnosis or deal with treatment compared to Caucasian families, which are 60% really more affected or less affected than we are, but they're 60% more willing to engage in treatment. So those are the numbers that we're trying to change because we're twice as affected, and a minuscule amount of us are willing to even accept this is what we're dealing with.
It's so true. It's so true. Whenever, someone is behaving irrationally in African American community, immediately
they need their butt whooped.
Right. Or the community at large thinks that they're just misbehaving or that they have malintent, right? Instead of thinking, oh, do they have diabetes?
Right, something's wrong.
Right, they have diabetes or a mental health issue. If they're not armed and not intentionally trying to hurt someone, we do need the de-escalation tactics. And we've done ourselves a disservice by telling people, oh, we're so strong and we don't have those type of problems. So it gets into the subconscious mind of the community at large that shouldn't be a possibility, right?
Yes, so all these are massive issues, and we're so glad that you're willing to come on the show and be transparent with your experiences. And actually, you've already turned the corner. You're already teaching family to family. You're educating the LAPD. You're doing your part. We want to actually get back and touch on some of those issues as well as soon as we come back from the next break. Don't go anywhere. Our guest is Regina Queen.
We'll be right back.
All right, though, that music says what, Marlon? Not to look like that face. You can't really be a pole dancer.
I'm tired of you exploiting me as a table dancer.
Well, it's...
What can we do?
It's time for the poll question, so it's kind of cute.
Can I at least get a poll?
You usually do your dance, so it's like being, hey, a poll question dance. There you go. All right, last week, well, actually not last week, for the last couple of weeks, we have been playing reruns. We hope you enjoyed the rerun of our show with our son, DJ Thomas, and his experiences. But the time before that, the week before that, our guest was Scott Killaby, the founder of the Killaby Center. You can actually call them at 866-545-6295 or email info@killabycenter.com.
Get your latest Scott's list.
and get your latest Scott's list. That's right. The question we asked Scott was, in the U.S., how many adults with mental illness report that they cannot get treatment even after trying and exhausting all options? Your options were, for answering, were A, 3 million, B, 6 million, or C, 9 million. I can't really remember what Scott said. Marla, do you remember if you got it right?
He said 6.
And so, Regina, we're going to ask you the same question. In the U.S., how many adults with mental illness report that they cannot get treatment even after trying and exhausting all options? 3 million, 6 million, or 9 million?
I would say 9.
It's 9 million. Ding, ding, ding,
Ding, ding, ding. That is correct.
Now, Scott, we know you're watching this. It's not that Regina is smarter than you are. She just made a better educated guess from the information. But that's okay. You have a chance to redeem yourself at the end of the month.
All right, yes, and at the end of the last week of every month, that Monday is always Scott Killaby. He's our guest. He kind of gives us all things
Tips
when it
and
comes
tools.
to dealing with mental awareness. The poll question for next week is:
what is the most difficult mental illness to treat? Depression, ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or BPD?
Which is borderline personality disorder. We won't actually get to that answer this week. That'll come next week.
We'll give our esteemed guests a chance to throw it on the wall so we can see how she fares next week. So what do you think, Regina? Depression, ADHD, or BPD? Which one is the hardest to treat?
I would say the latter.
BPD. Okay. Well,
we will see next week. Remember,
we'll find out if you're just smart or you're a genius.
Remember,
next week.
Stop by NAMI San Fernando Valley's website or Loving Beyond Reason's website. Click on the Mental Health Mondays tab and donate. And also, vote.
Have you noticed that every time that Tony's always pointing at us? Do you think that, what's that all about?
He's telling us to go and to be ready.
Is he?
I'm shocked that you actually see that happening. Anyway.
He's roots.
Anyway,
sweetie.
our guest is Regina Queen. And so, Regina, you were telling us about, well, first of all, thank you for sharing
Absolutely.
your story of your loved one dealing with bipolar 1 from an early age. And I haven't really seen too many kids that young being diagnosed and having to start dealing that young with such a specific disorder.
Was he actually diagnosed at that age?
No, he wasn't diagnosed at that age.
The behavioral issues started happening. Mm-hmm. But we recognized early onset behavioral differences as early as 11 months with one of ours, and then big at 4
Oh,
years.
that's true. That's true.
But let me just say this. I have to just piggyback right quick on what Dave was saying straight to Regina. The gratitude is greater than we can even express because of what you've stated and we've experienced. To be able to share in a community like ours that doesn't accept, and it's an indictment usually against the parent. What am I not doing that I'm so desperately trying to do to correct or to change this outcome that I don't even understand is huge. I have to say that because I think that the weight of that I've experienced, and to the point of reclusion, just, you know what, no one around me that is in my circle or looks like me or my friends, I even had to stop talking about it because I could see them glaze over. Like, oh, so you kind of feel like, you don't get invited anywhere because, no one can really relate, and you don't want to burden other people, but yet it's so all-consuming for you in love to try to find answers. So for you to be here and to speak out, I just have to say I wanted to express what that actually feels like, and, it's a double, gratitude for me.
Yes, that's why NAMI is so important to me, because I've been able to gain community, and not just, and to be quite honest, I don't really, other than you guys now, not many other African Americans, right? But because we all share this experience, I know that I could pick up the phone and call anybody in my NAMI group, and they would drop everything to come and help.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And you can add us to that list as well. Please trust, and we know that it takes not just the village; it takes the entire community. A couple of villages put together. So, you had also mentioned that your son, loved one literally was not willing to take medication throughout that entire process. When did that change for your loved one?
So initially, he wasn't interested in taking medication because, as you know, there's so many side effects, right? It would dull his creativity, so and make him sleepy, and just he didn't have that mojo.
He didn't want to feel like he felt
That
like a zombie.
edge, that edge.
Right. And then, there are other complications that affect your metabolic system. So there was
The weight
significant
gain.
weight
Yeah.
gain, and nobody likes that, right?
Yeah.
However, there was one time when he was hospitalized and he was in therapy, and someone actually got through to him. One of the, I guess, therapists there told him, well, and was very clever, said, well, if everybody's telling you have a tail, like if you have a tail on your body,
You're
you don't
showing,
think
yeah.
you have a tail, but everybody else is saying it, maybe you should look and see or accept the fact that you have a tail. And so that phrase or statement actually
Penetrated, got him.
some self-reflection, right? And he said, maybe I need to do something, especially after 14 hospitalizations, something is not working. So after that point, he became more compliant, but we still had issues, because I do want to say this, medication is important, but it's not everything.
It doesn't solve everything.
It doesn't solve every problem. It doesn't work forever, right? It could work for a period of time, and then there needs to be adjustments.
Change in medications,
Absolutely, which was our last episode. That was the result.
Right. And I do believe in prayer. And I know we mentioned earlier that, prayer is not everything. So I think it's both. You have to definitely, in my opinion, have a spiritual connection, because, he was lost a few times and the medication wasn't going to help me find him. And I prayed and prayed and got my prayer warrior friends and sisters to pray, and by a miracle, I was able to find him. I even created a meditation about fear, because I had to, imagine if you think someone is lost and all these thoughts start rolling in your mind about all the horrible things that could be happening.
Been there.
Right? So, I was able to just be at peace and say, no matter what happens, it's going to be okay. And fortunately, we did find him.
But for those of us who understand, it's the peace that passes all understanding.
Exactly.
So when you're at your last wit's end and there's nothing else that you can do, there's always hope. And the good thing about it is not just you, Regina, which you are definitely a warrior. All the warriors at NAMI, Loving Beyond Reason. It's good to understand that not only is there always hope, but you can be a part of that hope. A great conversation with Regina Queen. We will get back to more conversation after the next break.
Bad.
Worthless.
Don't trust them. They'll hurt you. You're worthless.
It's pointless.
When the pain of schizophrenia meets hope, everything can change. Help someone who is struggling by supporting the National Alliance on Mental Illness and be a part of the NAMI effect. Hope starts with you.
It's raw, real, and unfiltered.
All right. Well, our conversation, and time always flies when we're having great conversation.
It's true.
We are near the end of the show, but before we go, Regina, we would love for you to give us a final word of inspiration for other families who may be dealing with a similar situation.
So what I wanted to say is that fear is not real. Danger is real, but fear is what we develop in our mind. And I also want to leave you with this parting thought, in that, like I said, medication is amazing and I'm so grateful for it, but there are other things that need to be addressed, like our physical wellness, obviously exercise and eating appropriately, and what that may mean for some may not be the same for others, but eating more of a clean diet so that it won't affect your mental health in a negative way, and just knowing that you need to have a community of support. So having the support, eating well, meditating, exercising, I know it's a lot of things, but you have to address
all aspects of wellness.
And then the last thing I wanted to say, the very final point, is that I personally believe, I'm not a mental health professional by any means or a doctor, but I personally believe that a lot of mental health issues stem from trauma and rejection on certain levels, and I think that definitely has to be addressed. So, and it's been beneficial for my family member, and he's made drastic improvements.
And I want to say to everybody in the world and to you, Regina, you are not alone.
Absolutely. We're Marla and Dave. This has been Mental Health Mondays with our guest, Regina Queen. We want you to remember that your overall health always includes your mental health.
And I have to always say thank you to those who show up in the chat room.
Absolutely.
So
and
thank
those
you.
watching on our YouTube channel. So we'll see you guys next week. Regina, thank you so much
for being with us.
And our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family at all times.
Likewise, my great pleasure. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
All right, you too.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Till then I be a fool, real fool, wishing for the day.
Regina, thank you so much. We were just letting the music finish playing out, ending the show. And you made it.